And am I allowed to say none of the above? I'm going to say none of the above. I could say I like both of those questions. I could say I don't like both of them. And I feel that the details that our devil is hiding in has to do with who at the school makes those decisions and over what. And there are times where I feel, and I've participated in this, where we have a site council or something like that at a local school and makes a certain number of budgetary decisions, and maybe even choosing a principal or having some input in choosing a principal, that kind of stuff. And I think that's very valuable. I think it's very valuable to the community. When I was a parent at Manzanita Seed Elementary, they held those meetings when working class people couldn't attend. So somebody like me, who's self-employed, basically a privileged white guy, was able to attend the meeting where 2/3 of our students were working class Spanish speakers whose parents could not be at a meeting at 3 in the afternoon, not for the site council and not for the election for site council. So one of the things, if we're going to have a certain amount of school autonomy, I think that the school board should be making sure that those groups that are in the schools actually represent parents and the teachers of those schools, right? And it's not a given. Also, having a principal and a few of the principal's friends making decisions, to me, that's not local control. That's an autonomous principal. Now, I believe that the principal should have some breathing room and some autonomy. And then when you say, well, decisions should be managed by the center, which decisions, right? I really believe that the center should be providing those services that makes the school district work. So a good example of that would be libraries. We sat at Frick Middle School talking about, what do they call it, the excellent school search. We're searching for excellent schools. And I was pretty upset that we were sitting in an abandoned library searching for excellent schools, wondering maybe there was something wrong with our attitude. Well, we didn't fund their library. You know, and Manzanita Seed let go of somebody who had worked for 16 years with the school district, who had just gotten his Master's of Library Science, after being a credentialed school librarian, after having worked as a credentialed younger kid teacher. They let go of him not because of any decision that was made by the site council or by the central office, but because they wanted to have music instead next year. So if that's local autonomy and that's central control, I'd say they're both failing at the task. If we don't have enough money to have a librarian in every school, well, that's why we're in a group together called the school district. We should have librarians that rotate. We could keep that library open a day or two per school. We could be doing things effectively. Another example of that is like the computers. Frankly, you know, that this is not IT support. It's not what you get. It's not what you get in the charter schools. It's not what you're getting at the public schools. And the central authority is who has the wherewithal to give you good IT support. Every little school and a few parent volunteers should not be doing IT. So those are two examples of where I see a dialogue between what's decided centrally and what's decided locally. So I guess I'm for both. Thank you.
All right, questions? Danielle?
Good afternoon. I'm Danielle Macleay. I'm a parent in OUSD and a leader in the United Campus Building Community. There are over 49,000 Oakland students in public schools, of which about 12,000 attend charter schools. OUSD has recently announced an initiative called the Equity Pledge, which is meant to create a new culture of cooperation between district and charter schools. As a result of this cooperation, new agreements can be created to address equity issues in a number of areas between district and charter schools. Ultimately, it should strengthen public education across the city. Equity issues do exist across district and charter schools, and that addressing these issues head-on will ensure a higher quality education for more students. Go believes that cooperation between district and charter schools is not simply best practice, but is necessary for a healthy Oakland. Everybody will have to and should make compromises on behalf of students. You will have 4 minutes to answer 2 parts of this question. First, do you support the Equity Pledge Initiative? Why or why not? Second, do you believe that you will hold some responsibility towards charter school students? Why or why not? How will this affect your decision if you were to become a school board member?
Thank you. I think this question really gets to the crux of my campaign, and also the crux of the division between parents. Because when we really have certain parents putting their kids in one kind of school, other parents doing another thing, and in the end, we have a division in our community. We have a division in our community, we have a division among our parents. I can answer one of the little questions first and easiest. What percentage of these students are the responsibility of the Oakland Unified School District? It's 100%. The Oakland Unified School District is not just responsible for the attendees of Oakland USD managed schools. We are responsible for every kid that is not in school. Every dropout between the ages of 16 and 18 is the responsibility of the Oakland Unified School District. The Oakland Unified School District issues those charters. They have an office, or they're supposed to have an office, where they have oversight of the charter schools. And frankly, I personally am sick and tired of the kind of petty resource fighting that happens between the two groups. My son goes to a charter school, even though I'm not a big charter school advocate, like I'm not, but he goes to one, and that school has a perfectly good internet network in there. I work in the volunteer in the IT department, so I know about this, and we're not using it. We're not using it because we can't seem to relate with one another. Same thing happened at the Santa Fe school when we rented it to Emeryville, and now it's going to have Glenview move into it, right? It's almost like we've turned ourselves into little franchises, and that is not working as a team. I'm totally in favor of working as a single team. When I was talking about if we don't have enough librarians to have every school have a staff librarian, well, why wouldn't the charter schools and the public schools all be on that same rotational thing? Why are we not providing centralized services? You know, these are not somebody else's schools. These are not somebody else's kids, right? The idea of whether or not this charter school thing is going to work, or if it's going to work in the format that is currently prescribed by California law, and it's going to work with the proposals, which are frankly pretty new. If you think of the 150-year tradition of education in the United States, the charter school movement's very new. A lot of things are going to flush out, some are going to fail, some are going to be very interesting. Some, and I think a lot of them, are going to end up being those electives that I talked about in your local school. So I really want to address the idea, and this is not really your question, is why do people leave the local schools to go for charter school? And it's dissatisfaction in big part. And I think we need to address that. So when we talk about the equity pledge, it's almost like one step away from talking about how do we all pull together. And I would say, I'm not dodging your question, but you know, the equity pledge to me maybe would be better as a solidarity pledge. Between us, we should educate every young person in Oakland who presents themselves to us and wants an education. Between us, we should take care of all of the students who are failing, all of the students who are dropping out. So a solidarity pledge would mean we would take collective responsibility for education in the city of Oakland. Stop. That was my longest one.
David Stein.
I'm David Stein. I'm a lifelong Oaklander, graduate of the Oakland Public Schools, member of the Go Advocates Board and the Go Leadership Council. And 40 years ago, I was a student representative for the Board of Education. As a board member, one of your most important jobs will be to evaluate the performance of the superintendent. We know that speaking directly about the superintendent's performance review publicly would be a violation of confidentiality for city board members. So, without speaking about the current superintendent, what actions will you take as a board member to ensure that the superintendent has a scope of work that is high impact, clear and achievable? And after you have taken those actions, what information would you need to know in order to understand whether a superintendent is being effective?
There's a belief here that somehow we Americans, we seem to like our gurus. And we often place our ideas and how we're going to do things based on the personality of the people we've put into place. Often when you talk to people about the nonprofit they're involved in or whatever, they end up talking about the person instead of about the thing that it's doing. I seriously believe in board oversight, but I don't think of it as something where we don't like the superintendent. The board hires the superintendent. The board supervises the superintendent and frankly all the departments with the idea that they want to succeed. That's the whole point. You don't supervise people that you are adversarial with, you fire them, right? What you need to do is have a relationship where the check and balance of the board is the process by which we take corrective action. That's the whole point of it. And I would really like to see a system where the board had a schedule. And each department would have to come before the board and review. And that we get some outside look at it, not just management's latest PowerPoint presentation. Where we actually kind of look it over and see where things are at and have public comments and private comments so that teachers and parents and employees can speak either on background or publicly and do the kinds of things that any other legislative body does to supervise the departments under its control. And if there was a big difference between what I would like to do with the board and what the board currently does, is, if I was elected, I'd have to go starting to talk to my fellow board members, whoever they would be, and say, would you be willing to hold a hearing on a regular basis on the different things in order to improve them? What are our language policies? How do we teach foreign language? How do we teach English as a second language? Do we ever call that up for review? How do we deal with our IT? Have we ever called that up for review? What's our maintenance and infrastructure plan? It's not very interesting stuff, but somebody has to do the ABCs of management and management oversight. And every manager at the Oakland Unified School District and every department should feel accountable, not to the board because the board is like this evil empire, right? But because the board represents the people. The board represents the public and the interest in education that I was talking about. So, how we review the superintendent and how we set their goals and then evaluate if they reach them, that's a group decision. So I would not throw my own ideas out there. The last thing they need is another armchair quarterback. What we need is a good process by which the board is supervising what's going on and being the conduit for a larger community understanding of what those goals are and correcting it on a regular basis. That should be something that's scheduled in there. Thank you.
Thank you. As we wrap up, we just have 2 minutes for you to make closing remarks.
Wow. I had ideas for closing remarks, but most of them were just using that last answer. We're a house divided, very much so. The contentious attitude difference between the charter school people and the other people is very strong. I want to say something. We are not going to get through this without a better level of respect for one another. And I know that given my background and my political background, you guys having me here is already a good show of open-mindedness. I think that we need to face the facts, and the facts are, by and large, we don't manage these schools very well. There's a lot of reasons for it. Part of it is just a financial crisis because the affluent have decided to stop paying taxes. But There's other things that we can't just blame on other parties, right? I was in a meeting at my charter school, and I'm opposed to the concept of charter schools, and they hiring a new person who, they were talking about their existence at an OUSD school, and saying, well, he wanted to take an initiative and try to improve this and that, and everybody just laughed, because they knew that the next thing that happened was he was available to work at a charter school. That's gotta end. We have to stop driving creativity away from one another. We have to stop driving goodwill away from one another. And if I can be successful as a board member, it'd be because I worked to bridge that gap. Thank you.